I never thought my life would spiral like this. My name is Jake, and I'm just an ordinary guy living in Austin, Texas. I have a decent job in tech, and my wife, Amanda, is a fitness enthusiast who has made a name for herself as a local influencer. I used to admire her dedication to health and wellness, and how her social media was filled with perfectly staged shots of her working out, eating healthy, and living her best life. We often laughed about how fake it all seemed, but I supported her passion and even helped her with her posts. It was a team effort, or so I thought. Lately, though, something felt off. Amanda had been distant, glued to her phone more than usual. She would often have late-night calls, claiming they were business-related, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It began with little things. She started going to the gym at odd hours, coming home later than expected, and I noticed she was more secretive about her phone. When I asked her about it, she'd roll her eyes and say I was being paranoid. Just a typical day in our marriage. Or so I believed. One Friday evening, I was browsing through her recent posts while waiting for dinner. I noticed she had tagged a new workout partner, some guy named Tyler, a fitness model with a massive following. My stomach twisted at the sight of their smiles, arms wrapped around each other like they were the best of friends. I shrugged it off at first, reminding myself that she was a professional and had to network. But then I started noticing more interactions between them, flirty comments, heart emojis, and inside jokes that felt too intimate for my liking. The real turning point came when I stumbled upon something I couldn't ignore. I came home early one day and found Amanda's phone buzzing on the counter. I picked it up out of curiosity, thinking I'd just take a quick peek to see if it was work-related. My heart dropped when I opened the messages. There it was, flirty texts exchanged with Tyler that made my blood boil. "Can't wait to see you tonight." Or, "You always know how to make me feel good." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My mind raced. The betrayal was so blatant, so raw, I couldn't breathe, the betrayal weighing heavily on my chest. Confronting Amanda was a whirlwind of emotions. I waited until she got home, my fingers trembling with rage and heartbreak. She walked in, all smiles and energy as if nothing was wrong. I couldn't keep it in any longer. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low and steady. The moment she heard those words, her expression shifted. The facade cracked, and for a fleeting moment I saw the panic in her eyes. "What's wrong, Jake?" she asked, feigning innocence, but I wasn't in the mood for games. I threw her phone onto the couch, the screen still showing her flirty exchanges. "What the hell is this?" I shouted, my voice echoing through our living room. That's when the excuses started pouring out. She claimed it was just harmless flirting, that I was overreacting. "Tyler is just a friend," she insisted, her tone dismissive as if I were being ridiculous. I couldn't believe the audacity. I felt my heart shattering into pieces. How could she lie to my face like that? I demanded the truth, but she danced around it, trying to downplay everything, making it seem as if I were the unreasonable one for being upset. As the confrontation escalated, I felt all sorts of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, betrayal, sadness. It was a storm, and I was caught in it. I loved Amanda, and to see her deny something so clear felt like a slap in the face. I needed space, needed to think. I paced around the room, feeling like I was losing my mind. The night ended with her storming off to bed while I sat alone on the couch, replaying every moment from our marriage that now felt tainted. The laughter, the whispers, the promises, all of it now felt like a cruel joke. I was left with a gnawing emptiness, the weight of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. What did I want to do next? I had to make a decision, and I wasn't sure where to start. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one I never wanted to write. But I would write it, and I would find a way to regain my sense of self. I could feel the fire of revenge igniting within me, but I needed to be smart about it. How could I expose the lies and the fake lifestyle they were living? I decided I wasn't going to be a passive victim in this story. I would take control. The days that followed the confrontation were like walking through a fog. Amanda acted as if everything was normal, continuing to post her perfectly curated life online, seemingly unfazed by what had transpired. I, on the other hand, was spiraling into a dark pit of anger and betrayal. Every time I glanced at her social media, it felt like a punch to the gut. The charming smile, the fitness poses, the vibrant life, all of it felt like a mask hiding the truth of her infidelity. I couldn't just sit back and let her continue to exploit the facade she had created while destroying our marriage. I decided it was time to dig deeper. I dedicated the next couple of days to learning more about her interactions with Tyler and the nature of their relationship. I scoured her social media for any incriminating evidence, taking screenshots of every message, every flirty comment, and every interaction that felt too personal. The more I gathered, the more my resolve strengthened. 1. Evening after Amanda had gone to bed, I started connecting the dots. I found out that Tyler was not just some random influencer. He had a significant following and a brand that seemed to revolve around fitness, health, and lifestyle. The more I read about him, the more I realized how easily people fell for the illusion he projected. I began to understand why Amanda was drawn to him. He was everything she aspired to be, and it made me sick to my stomach. An idea began to form in my mind. I could expose them, unravel the fake lifestyle they were building together. It wouldn't just be a personal revenge. It would be a statement to show the world how deceptive social media could be. I knew that if I played my cards right, I could not only ruin their relationship but also take down Tyler's brand. After all, he was living a lie just as much as Amanda was, and it would be satisfying to watch it all collapse. The plan started to take shape. I wanted to reach out to Amanda's followers, those who looked up to her and admired her seemingly perfect life. I would gather all the evidence I had collected and create a detailed post. It would include screenshots of their conversations, photos that depicted their closeness, and any other evidence that illuminated the truth. I decided to create a fake account to ensure my identity remained a mystery. As I worked on the details, a wave of satisfaction washed over me. I envisioned the moment when Amanda's carefully constructed world came crashing down. The thought fueled my motivation, but I also found myself wrestling with guilt. Was I taking it too far? A part of me questioned whether I should just let it go and walk away from the wreckage of our marriage. But the pain of betrayal pushed me forward, and I couldn't help but feel that this was my chance to reclaim my power. I spent hours crafting the post, ensuring every detail was clear and concise. I wanted to present the truth in a way that would resonate with her audience, making them question everything they thought they knew about her. As I clicked post, the weight of the decision hit me. There was no turning back now. The aftermath was swift. Almost immediately, comments started flooding in. Some people supported me, expressing disbelief, while others defended Amanda, insisting that I was just a bitter husband. The mix of reactions gave me a strange sense of validation. The truth was out there, and Amanda couldn't hide behind her facade anymore. I waited anxiously for her response, knowing that she would soon see the fallout of her actions. When she finally confronted me, it was like watching a volcano erupt. I had anticipated her anger, but nothing could prepare me for the rage that poured out. She was screaming, accusing me of trying to ruin her career and her life. "You think this is funny?" she shouted. "You're just jealous of my success." It was frustrating because she still refused to take responsibility for her actions. "Jealous of what? You think this lifestyle is real?" I shot back, feeling my own anger bubble over. "You've built your brand on lies and I'm just exposing the truth." But she didn't want to hear it. She was too consumed by her own denial to acknowledge the damage she had caused. The confrontation escalated quickly. Amanda claimed I was trying to sabotage her because I couldn't handle her success, but deep down I knew the truth was far more sinister. This wasn't about jealousy, it was about justice. I watched her spiral into a rage, throwing accusations and swearing that I would regret exposing her. Little did she know the regret would be hers, not mine. Despite her outbursts, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I had taken control of the narrative, and no matter how loudly Amanda shouted, I knew I had done the right thing. I was no longer just the victim of her betrayal. I was reclaiming my story. I could feel the tension in the air shift, and for the first time since the affair came to light, I felt a glimmer of hope for my future. The emotional roller coaster was far from over, but I was prepared to face whatever consequences lay ahead. I had exposed the truth, and now I was ready to see how the fallout would unfold. Would Amanda own up to her mistakes, or would she continue to play the victim? I was eager to find out. The fallout from my post was more intense than I ever anticipated. Amanda's followers reacted in a frenzy, and soon, her carefully constructed image began to crack. Some loyal fans stood by her side, insisting that it was all a misunderstanding, while others demanded answers. The comments section became a battleground, with people debating her authenticity, and the tides were beginning to turn against her. I kept a close eye on her social media as the days passed. Amanda's posts transformed from confident and vibrant to defensive and scattered. She went from sharing perfectly staged workouts to vague, passive-aggressive captions about loyalty and betrayal. I could almost hear her desperately trying to hold onto the narrative, but her grip was slipping. The more she tried to cover up her lies, the more her audience seemed to question her. One evening, I came home from work to find Amanda sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with a look of devastation on her face. She was scrolling through the comments, and I could see the realization hit her like a freight train. I had expected her to confront me again, to lash out as she had before, but instead she simply sat there defeated. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I asked, crossing my arms. The silence felt heavy, between us filled with the weight of unspoken words. She looked up, her eyes glistening. "What do you want me to say, Jake? That I messed up, I get it, you've made your point. Did you really think you could just play me for a fool and get away with it? I was trying to protect our life together, Amanda. You could have just been honest with me," I replied, my voice steady but laced with hurt. She took a deep breath, the fight seemingly drained from her. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could keep it all separate. It was just a fling, I never meant for it to go this far." Her voice trembled, and for a brief moment I saw a flicker of remorse. "A fling? Is that what you call it?" I scoffed, feeling a mix of anger and pity. It was painful to hear her dismiss the emotional toll it took on me. "You were out there building a brand on the back of that fling. You put your followers above our marriage." Amanda's gaze dropped to her lap, and I could see the shame begin to wash over her. "I made a mistake. I didn't realize how deep it would go. I never thought it would come to this." I leaned against the wall, feeling the weight of the moment. "You need to understand that you can't just brush it off. You've hurt me, and I can't simply forget that." "I know, I wish I could make it right," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. At that moment I knew we were at a crossroads. I had a decision to make. Could I ever trust her again? Did I want to try to rebuild what we had, or was it time to let go? I had always valued honesty in our relationship, and Amanda's betrayal had shattered that foundation. However, watching her sit there, vulnerable and stripped of her confidence, pulled at my heartstrings. "Look, Amanda," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I don't know if I can forgive you right now, but you need to face the consequences of your actions. You've built your career on a lie, and it's crumbling. You have to decide whether you want to fight to rebuild your brand, or just let it all go." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't want to lose everything. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this," she promised, her voice trembling. That was when I realized that her journey was just beginning. The fallout from our confrontation was far from over, and I could see the impact it was having on her both professionally and personally. Amanda announced a hiatus from social media, claiming she needed time to reflect. It was a step in the right direction, but I knew she needed to confront her mistakes rather than hide from them. As the days turned into weeks, I watched her struggle to come to terms with the reality of her actions. Amanda began reaching out to her followers, attempting to address the accusations, but her attempts were met with mixed reactions. It was almost painful to witness, as she faced public scrutiny for the first time. I saw her vulnerability, but I also knew that she needed to take accountability if she wanted to rebuild her life and our marriage. In the meantime, I spent time contemplating my own feelings. I had exposed Amanda's lies, but I was still grappling with my own emotions. Anger, betrayal, and sadness battled within me. I didn't want to be the villain in this story, but I also didn't want to be a doormat. Every night, I reflected on whether I could ever trust her again and whether I was willing to forgive. One evening, as I sat on the couch flipping through old photos of us, I was flooded with memories of happier times. Our spontaneous weekends, the laughter, and the adventures we had shared. There was a time when I believed Amanda was my partner in everything. It made my heart ache to think about how quickly things had shifted. Finally, I realized that I couldn't make this decision alone. I reached out to a therapist, suggesting couples counseling. I wanted to explore whether there was a path forward for us, but I also wanted to ensure that Amanda was serious about taking responsibility for her actions. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to give it a chance, if she was too. When I broached the topic with her, Amanda's face lit up with a mix of hope and fear. "You really want to try?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "I think it's worth a shot, but it's going to be a long road, Amanda." "It's not going to be easy," I replied, my heart racing. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes," she promised, sounding determined for the first time in weeks. As we took our first steps into this uncertain journey, I felt a mix of apprehension and hope. I realized that while exposing Amanda's lies had been empowering, the real challenge lay ahead, rebuilding trust and figuring out whether we could emerge from the wreckage of betrayal stronger than before. Would we make it, or was this the beginning of the end? Only time would tell. The days turned into weeks as Amanda and I embarked on the challenging journey of couples counseling. The initial sessions were filled with tension and raw emotions. We sat across from each other in the therapist's office, each of us wrestling with our feelings while trying to navigate the precarious landscape of our relationship. The therapist guided us through discussions about trust, betrayal, and the importance of honesty, but every session brought up painful memories that I wasn't sure I was ready to revisit. Amanda often spoke about her need for validation and how her journey into the world of social media had warped her perception of reality. "I thought I was building something great. I thought the attention and the followers meant something," she admitted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I never meant to hurt you, but I got caught up in it all." Hearing her words, I felt a mix of sympathy and anger. I knew she was struggling, but the hurt from her betrayal was still fresh. "It's not just about followers, Amanda. You lost sight of what we had. You let your need for approval overshadow our relationship," I replied, my voice steady but laced with pain. The therapist encouraged us to dig deeper, to explore the roots of our issues. We began to discuss our communication styles and how they had shifted over time. I realized that I had become complacent, allowing Amanda to take the lead in our relationship. I had trusted her implicitly, never questioning her decisions, and in doing so, I had become a passive participant in our marriage. As we continued these sessions, something began to shift. Amanda started to take responsibility for her actions more seriously, showing genuine remorse. She recognized that her need for validation had led her astray, and she began to unpack the feelings behind her infidelity. "I thought I was succeeding, but I was just running away from my insecurities," she confessed one day, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought I needed to be perfect, and in chasing that, I lost everything that mattered." I found myself softening ever so slightly. I had waited for this moment, the moment where she faced the truth head-on, but it was still challenging for me to reconcile my feelings. I couldn't forget the pain she had caused, the betrayal that shattered my trust. Yet, as Amanda shared her vulnerabilities, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had married, someone who was capable of growth and change. The real turning point came when Amanda decided to take a break from social media altogether. It was a bold move, one she hadn't initially considered. "I need to step back and focus on myself, on us," she said, her resolve strong. It was a relief to hear, and I began to believe that she was serious about making amends. This was her chance to find her identity outside of the digital persona she had built. As she distanced herself from the online world, I saw Amanda begin to change. She started rediscovering old hobbies, painting, cooking, and even running without the pressure of documenting every step. We spent weekends hiking, reconnecting with each other in nature and away from the distractions of social media. For the first time in a long while, We were simply existing as a couple, exploring the world around us without the weight of betrayal hanging over us. However, my emotional journey wasn't linear. Some days I felt hopeful, as if we were truly on the path to healing. Other days I was confronted with anger and doubt. I often found myself replaying moments from our past, days when I felt secure in our marriage, and the moments leading up to the betrayal that shattered everything. It was exhausting, navigating the complexity of my feelings while trying to support Amanda through her journey. Then there were the moments when I saw the cracks in her facade. During one of our counseling sessions, as we talked about her relationship with Tyler, I could sense her hesitation. I don't want to go back to that world, she said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. But what if people don't accept me anymore? What if they can't forgive me? The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. I realized that her fear of judgment was still very much alive. It doesn't matter what they think, Amanda. What matters is how we rebuild our relationship, I replied, trying to instill some confidence in her. You have to learn to validate yourself, not rely on others' opinions. After weeks of counseling, we had made progress, but I still felt a sense of unease. One night, as I lay awake, I found myself asking if I could truly trust Amanda again. Could I really believe that she had distanced herself from the validation of social media and the allure of attention? It was during one of those restless nights that I decided to confront my doubts. I needed to know where we stood, and I wanted to be honest about my feelings. I suggested we have a candid discussion about our future, about what it would look like if we continued on this path together. The conversation was intense. I need to know if you're truly committed to rebuilding our life together, I said, looking into her eyes. This isn't just about stopping the lies, it's about learning to communicate and trust each other again. I am committed, Jake. I want us to work. I'm tired of living a lie, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I want you to see me for who I am, not who I pretended to be. I want to earn back your trust. Her sincerity struck a chord within me. It was the first time I saw a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, the one who was willing to confront her demons head-on. As we spoke, I felt the walls around my heart begin to crack open. I still had a long way to go, but I was ready to take a step forward. As we wrapped up that conversation, I realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. It would require patience, understanding, and a lot of hard work. But for the first time in a long time, I felt optimistic about the future. We were beginning to find our way back to each other, and maybe, just maybe, we could emerge from the darkness stronger than we had ever been before. It was a small glimmer of hope, but it was enough to keep me moving forward. We had a long road ahead of us, but for the first time, I believed that we could navigate it together. As we continued our journey through counseling and self-discovery, I began to notice subtle shifts in both Amanda and myself. The initial rawness of our confrontation had softened into something that resembled understanding, and though the road ahead was still riddled with obstacles, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Amanda embraced her break from social media with a surprising fervor. She delved into new hobbies, rediscovered her love for cooking, and even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. I admired her determination to rebuild her sense of self, separate from the influencer lifestyle that had contributed to her infidelity. It was refreshing to see her genuinely engaged in life again, finding joy in activities that didn't require validation from others. One Friday night, I came home to find Amanda in the kitchen, preparing one of her favorite meals, something she hadn't done in a long time. The scent of garlic and herbs filled the air, and I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. She looked up and smiled, her face glowing with a sense of purpose. I thought we could have a nice dinner together, just the two of us, she said, her eyes sparkling. As we sat down to eat, I couldn't help but feel a sense of normalcy returning to our lives. We shared stories, laughed over silly memories, and took the time to connect, just like we used to. It felt good to be reminded of the bond we had, even if it felt fragile after everything that had happened. I wanted to believe we could mend those broken pieces. However, the shadows of doubt still loomed. I was keenly aware that Amanda's journey was not entirely linear. There were moments when her past would creep back in, manifesting in her insecurities and fears. I could see her struggle when she received messages from former followers, or when she encountered people who knew her from her influencer days. The fear of judgment still haunted her, and it was difficult for me to watch her grapple with those feelings. During our sessions, we often returned to the topic of her relationship with Tyler. It was clear that she had not completely processed the impact of that affair. I thought I was so special in his eyes, she confessed one day, a pained expression crossing her face. But he was just using me too, just like I was using him for attention. I felt a pang of empathy for her, but I also knew that we needed to address the reality of what had happened. You need to understand that you were worth more than just being a means to an end. I encouraged her. You need to see your value outside of those relationships, especially outside of Tyler's influence. As we worked through those emotions, I found myself feeling more invested in our healing process. I was finding my voice again, not just as Amanda's husband, but as someone who wanted to reclaim my own identity in this relationship. I began to set boundaries and express my own needs more clearly. It wasn't easy, but I realized that I didn't want to lose myself in the process of trying to save our marriage. In one of our sessions, I decided to open up about my own emotions. I still struggle with trust, Amanda, I admitted, feeling the weight of the words. I want to believe you, but it takes time. I'm still processing the hurt. I understand, Jake. I'm committed to earning your trust back, she promised, her voice filled with sincerity. But I need you to meet me halfway. I want us to be open with each other, to communicate without fear of judgment. That was the moment I realized we were genuinely moving forward. We were beginning to have difficult conversations, to peel back the layers of our relationship beyond the surface level. As uncomfortable as it was, it felt like we were finally starting to lay a new foundation, brick by brick. With each passing week, the therapy sessions became more productive. We learned to listen to each other without jumping to conclusions. We practiced expressing our feelings and our fears, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable without the weight of shame or guilt. The more we communicated, the better we understood each other's perspectives. As our bond deepened, I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the laughter, the passion, and the willingness to embrace life. It felt like we were rediscovering each other in a new light, one that was stripped of deception and rooted in authenticity. However, as our sessions progressed, I became increasingly aware that the outside world was still a complex factor in our healing. Amanda had decided to return to social media, albeit in a different capacity than before. I want to share my journey, my real journey, not just fitness, she explained one evening. I want to be honest about my struggles and how I'm working to fix myself. While I admired her desire to be transparent, I couldn't shake my reservations. What if it all becomes too overwhelming again? You need to prioritize your mental health, I cautioned. I get that, and I will, she reassured me. I won't fall back into that trap, I promise. With that promise came a wave of anxiety. I wanted to support her in this new endeavor, but I also knew how quickly social media could turn toxic. It was a double-edged sword, one that could serve as a platform for authenticity or become a breeding ground for vanity and comparison. As her first post approached, she seemed excited yet nervous. I could see the anticipation bubbling inside her, and I felt a mix of pride and concern. I had seen the effort she had put into her personal growth, but I knew that putting herself out there again would test her resolve. The day came, and Amanda shared her first post, a heartfelt message about her journey of self-discovery, the value of authenticity, and the importance of prioritizing mental health. The comments flooded in with support, and for a moment, it felt like the weight of the world had lifted off her shoulders. But as I watched her interact with her followers, I noticed a flicker of anxiety cross her face every time she received criticism or negativity. That evening, as we lay in bed, I could sense her agitation. I thought this would feel liberating, she said, her voice shaky. But it's terrifying to put myself out there again. I took a deep breath, trying to offer my support without dismissing her feelings. It's okay to feel that way. You're building a new narrative, but it's important to remember that you control your story now, not the followers, not the likes. You have to focus on your truth. She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. I just want to be better for me and for you. In that moment, I realized how powerful vulnerability could be. It wasn't just about the journey of healing from betrayal. It was about embracing the messy, imperfect process of growth. As we drifted off to sleep, I held her close, knowing that while the road ahead was still uncertain, we were navigating it together, one step at a time. The path to rebuilding our relationship was far from over, but I felt a renewed commitment from both of us to face the challenges ahead. We were learning to be open, honest, and supportive of one another. And in that shared commitment, I began to believe that we could truly rise from the ashes of betrayal and create something beautiful together once again. As the months rolled by, Amanda and I continued to navigate the complexities of rebuilding our relationship. And while the road was winding, I began to feel a sense of hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. The darkness that had loomed over us was starting to dissipate, replaced by a fragile but growing light. Amanda's social media presence transformed from a platform of perfection to one of authenticity. She shared her struggles with mental health, her journey through therapy, and the lessons she was learning about herself. The more she embraced her truth, the more her followers responded positively. They admired her vulnerability, her willingness to let go of the facade, and I could see that it was empowering her. However, the path wasn't without its challenges. There were moments when the shadows of doubt crept back in, and the implications of her past actions resurfaced. I still found it difficult to shake off the memories of betrayal, and there were nights when I lay awake, replaying our history in my mind. Would I ever fully trust her again? During one of our counseling sessions, I decided to voice my concerns. I want to be fully on board with this, Amanda, but I still struggle with trust. I don't want to hold it against you, but sometimes it feels like the past is right there, just waiting to trip us up. I said, my heart racing as I shared my vulnerability. I understand, Jake. I'm still working on believing in myself, too, Amanda replied, her eyes reflecting the weight of her own journey. I just need you to know that I am committed to being honest and I'm not perfect. It's a process for both of us. Her determination resonated with me, and as we continued to face those difficult conversations, I began to recognize that healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about learning to grow from it. We celebrated small victories together, like the time Amanda received a heartfelt message from a follower who shared how her honesty had inspired them to seek help for their own struggles. It was a reminder that her journey held value beyond just our relationship. It had the potential to help others, too. One evening, as we relaxed on the couch, Amanda turned to me, a look of determination in her eyes. I want to do something bigger with my platform. I want to create a community where people can be honest about their struggles without judgment. A place that encourages real conversations, she said, her passion palpable. I felt a swell of pride as I listened to her articulate her vision. That sounds amazing, Amanda. You've come so far, and I can see how much this means to you. The more Amanda engaged with her followers, sharing her experiences, opening up about her past, and encouraging others to embrace their struggles, the more I saw her grow into the person I had always believed she could be. It was like watching a flower slowly bloom, shedding the layers of doubt and shame that had previously held her captive. As the weeks turned into months, we continued to attend therapy together, working through the lingering effects of betrayal. We learned to communicate more openly, and I discovered the importance of expressing my feelings without fear of judgment. The therapy sessions became a safe space for both of us, a place where we could explore our vulnerabilities without the added pressure of the outside world. Eventually, the day came when our therapist suggested we move toward a new phase in our healing process. You both have made significant progress, and I believe it's time to focus on the future rather than the past, she said, her warm smile encouraging us to embrace this new chapter. Sitting across from each other, I could see a flicker of hope in Amanda's eyes, and for the first time I truly believed that we were on the right path. I want to build a life with you, I said, my voice steady. I want us to create something beautiful together, one day at a time. I want that too, Jake. I want to be better for myself and for us. Amanda replied, her sincerity shining through. The conversation marked a turning point for us. I realized that while the scars of the past would always remain, they didn't have to define our future. We were learning to embrace our imperfections, to support each other through the hard times, and to celebrate the victories, no matter how small. As summer approached, Amanda announced the launch of her new online community, which she aptly named Real Talk. It aimed to create a safe space for individuals to share their struggles, to seek support, and to find comfort in the knowledge that they weren't alone. I watched her pour her heart into this project, and it was inspiring to see her channel her past pain into something positive. The launch day was filled with excitement and nervous energy. Amanda sat beside me, her hands trembling as she prepared to go live for the first time. I could see the mix of anticipation and apprehension in her eyes. What if people do like it? She whispered, fear creeping back in. Just be yourself. You've come so far and I believe in you, I reassured her, giving her hand a squeeze. As she stepped into the spotlight, I watched her flourish, connecting with her audience in a way that was genuine and heartfelt. The chat flooded with supportive messages, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Amanda was no longer just an influencer. She was a beacon of hope for others navigating their own struggles. In that moment, I realized how far we had come. The challenges we had faced had not only strengthened our relationship, but had also allowed us to rediscover ourselves as individuals. We had both learned to prioritize honesty, vulnerability, and communication, and it felt like we were finally building a solid foundation for a new life together. As the sun set on that day, I took Amanda's hand and looked into her eyes. No matter what happens, I'm proud of you. We've come a long way, and I believe we can keep moving forward. She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. Thank you for being by my side, Jake. I know it hasn't been easy, but I truly want to make this work. With that promise lingering in the air, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The journey of healing was ongoing, but I had faith in us. We would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and together, we would build the life we both dreamed of, a life rooted in authenticity, love, and resilience. I had learned that sometimes, from the ashes of betrayal, something beautiful could emerge. Our story was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about our future.